So I'm here sitting at a coffee shop waiting for it to open up and just finished up a beautiful conversation this morning with a good buddy of mine where we talked about a lot. We talked about family. We meet once a month at Waffle House because they're the only place that's open at 5 o'clock in the morning. And so I'm sitting here in front of this coffee shop and I'm just having a reflection on where have we gone with the world. Not in a sense of kind of what we see as modern events, right? Not talking about that, although that definitely has its own nervous system implications. I'm more so talking about the concept that we are much more advanced now than we've ever been in our entire existence as human beings, and yet we are the most distracted. Take this into consideration. Back in the days, we used to have to make our own food. Back in the days, we had to, till the ground. We had to, grow our crops. We had to wash our clothes in a barrel or whatever. Honestly, I don't really know. But the point being, we used to have to wash dishes by hand before dishes even existed. After dishes even existed. When we start looking at this stuff, I'm in a really big season of learning to slow down. And this is why. All of these different things, the dishwasher, the washer, the dryer, the convenience stores, all of these things are supposed to be making our lives easier. But in the reality, I feel like it's actually making it harder because we find ourselves becoming more and more distracted. So for example, the dishwasher is meant to save us time washing dishes. So instead of washing dishes for 40 minutes or 30 minutes, depending on how large your family is, you now put them in the dishwasher in 10 minutes, and then it does all that work for you in the span between an hour and a half and 2 hours to completely wash your dishes. That way, all you have to do is just unload them. It's supposed to save us a lot of time, especially if you run it every single day. You have to think, if it's saving you 20 minutes a day, 20 times 7 days a week, that's about 140 minutes. That's about 2 hours of time that we save. So what do we do with that time? We find other ways to distract ourselves, such as TikTok, such as YouTube, such as Instagram, such as Facebook, such as video games. Not many of us are understanding this concept that we're saving time by doing this. We just see that it allows us to be able to put our time and energy into something else that's just distracting us. These things are supposed to be making our lives easier, but I'm in a realization that I feel like they're actually making our lives harder. Another thing is the dreaded washer and dryer. We complain about folding our clothes, and the reality of that is that it used to be where if you wanted to wash your clothes, you'd have to wash them by hand, you'd have to hand dry them outside, or air dry them outside, and then you'd have to fold them or just wear the clothes, right? That's not the case anymore. The case now is that we put them in the washer. Saves us a lot of time. Put it in the dryer. Saves us a lot of time. And then yes, we have to fold them. We complain about folding them. But little do we understand that it's actually saving us a lot of time on the back end by actually using the washer and dryer. So what's the point of this video? If you're even sitting here this long. The point of this video is that let's make an effort, myself included, to stop distracting us from the things that, to utilize our time wisely. We have cars. I'm sitting in a car right now before my meeting. We have cars to get us from point A to point B a lot faster. So what do? What would I typically do? Full transparency. What would I typically do if I had a meeting and I was sitting in my car waiting for my meeting? I would scroll, right? And so instead I decided to make a video that I don't even know if anyone will watch. What would I do instead of, what would I do to save my time from the washer and dryer? Well, I'd probably just distract myself with more things. At least back in the day, we were busy doing the right things. And now we are being busy in stuff that does not matter. And then what happens is we look at our calendar and say we don't have enough time. When the reality is we have much more time for fellowship, much more time for communion, much more time for love, much more time for growth and creativity, much more time for learning than we ever have in our entire lives. The problem is that we're being busy in stuff that doesn't matter. So let's make a shift. Let's start being busy in what matters most, and let's start making a valiant effort to utilize this time that we have on earth because it's finite. For those of you that don't know, there's this saying that's called memento mori, which is it's Latin for remember that you must die. Okay, the tale is that they used to put these little engravings on headstones, typically in Orthodox cemeteries. You'll see this, and throughout the world as well. It says, "What you are, I once was, and what I am, you will surely be." And that's the reality that death is a very real thing. That death is something that I will not escape. That is something that you will not escape. It's something that only one man in this entire world escaped, and his name is Jesus Christ. Other than that, every single one of us will not escape the reality that we will repose one day, that we will die one day. So because of this, let us remember that this time on earth is finite. Let us remember that this time on earth is borrowed. Let us remember that this time on earth is a gift. Let's utilize this gift of time. Let's utilize this gift of life for the fellowship and the communion with our brothers and sisters, for the fellowship and communion with those whom we love, to check in on that loved one, to be able to read that book and learn, to be able to pray, to be able to read the scriptures, to be able to enjoy a cup of coffee without scrolling. Let's do these things, because in doing these things, I truly believe that we will set ourselves up for a very beautiful repose, a very beautiful death, and we'll be able to smile. I do think that this generation, my generation particularly, and younger, God forbid it's not myself, but I reached the end of my life and I wish that I would have spent my time wisely. I can guarantee you that this was not a thought, even just 100 years ago, for people who were dying. I believe that they were dying and they were thinking that I did it all, that I loved, that I truly lived a life where I spent my time at least somewhat wisely. And I have a feeling that for this generation, this is not going to be the case, but we are going to be gravely grieved on how we spent our time, myself included. So that's what I wanted to do for this video, is to be able to provide some perspective, something that I've been sitting on. There's a great book called 4,000 Weeks that talks about this concept of time. And I'm reading a book right now called A Toolkit for Spiritual Growth, Part 2, by Father Evan, he's an Orthodox priest in Colorado. And the last chapter is on time, and it's talking about this difference between Kairos time and Chronos time. And it just really got me to realize that I'm not spending my time wisely. And so I pray that you're doing much, much better than what I am. But I also hope that if you're watching this video, and this video is also for accountability for myself, to be able to start utilizing our time wisely, so that way we can reach the end of our lives, be able to look up and say that no time was wasted, that I was actually able to focus on what matters most and not be busy in what matters least.